May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and today on our watch, we are discussing how mental health initiatives, and particularly crisis intervention training, are transforming our approach to community policing.
I am a correction officer.
I'm a corrections corporal.
I am the jail commander.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Jeff Begg. Being a corrections officer isn't easy. The job is tough and it tests you every day. Every officer that works in our jail is making a difference. They are providing an immeasurable service to the community by ensuring the firm, fair, and consistent treatment of our inmates as they navigate the judicial system.
Learn more on how you can join our team today and be the difference. As we recognize Mental Health Awareness Month, it is crucial to spotlight the significant strides we're making in mental health training within law enforcement. This training not only enhances our response capabilities, but also strengthens our community connections. I'm thrilled to have with us Michelle Boone, Director of Clinical Services, and Aaron Ivers, Recovery Program Manager, who both play a pivotal role in our mental health initiatives. Welcome, Michelle and Aaron, and thank you for joining us with your valuable insight. Thank you for being here so much. I have to start out by telling you both that I'm certainly honored and humbled to have had to be the recipient of the Law Enforcement Administrator Year Award at the 2024 Ohio Crisis Intervention Training Conference. That was quite an honor and certainly a surprise to me. I was the one that received that honor, but really it reflects our entire agency and what we're doing here in Stark County. And I think in accepting that, I not only accept it on behalf of myself, but I accept it on behalf of all the men and women that are working so hard in making such great progress in mental health and crisis intervention awareness and training in our county. Crisis intervention is critical, and certainly we prioritize that at the Stark County Sheriff's Office. And so, Michelle, I'll start off with you and just ask you, from your perspective, by explaining what crisis intervention training is and why it's so critical to what we do in law enforcement.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a specialized training that's offered to first responders so that they can get additional tools and skills to work better with folks who are having a mental health or a substance use crisis. And it's a 40-hour in-person training. It's intensive. It goes over a lot of mental health and substance use signs, symptoms, and resources, and does a lot of role plays so that folks can have some sense of knowing what to expect when they do encounter somebody in the community that's having a crisis. And part of this is really about a lot of community members working together, law enforcement, mental health, substance use providers, and just community members in general themselves. And I think as a result of this training, first responders are more able to easily identify folks that might need help, and then be able to know how to connect them to trained professionals who can give them the assistance that they need.
I think that's fantastic, and I think that as we've been doing this for a number of years, I think that our law enforcement community understands and certainly recognizes how important this part of our training is. And I know I went through the training after first becoming sheriff, and I was really impressed with the different aspects of the training. And so, Aaron, I'll ask you a little bit from your experience, because I know you're at the cutting edge of all the training for us. What's the most impactful aspect of the training that you think is generated with law enforcement?
Well, I mean, as Michelle said, this training really is, adding tools to their tool belt already. And so when they're out in the community and they're able to recognize these signs and symptoms of mental health or substance use, they're able to de-escalate safely the situation and get folks connected to care and treatment. So I think that really helps law enforcement feel more confident in their abilities when they're on the job, to help them feel safer, not only for themselves, but for the folks that they're serving. And I think that's been really impactful for them.
Well, I totally agree. I can tell you just a few years ago, we heard a large outcry from our community on de-escalation training for law enforcement. We need to do more de-escalation training. And I kind of, at that time, thought to myself, the community really wasn't aware, and that's why today is so important. The community wasn't aware that we were already engaged in de-escalation training And actually, you mentioned it, Michelle, the role playing that we did in de-escalation. So I thought at that time, while I concurred with some of the sentiment of our community, thought at that time that that Stark County law enforcement was a little bit ahead of the curve in that aspect, and that we were already, had been for a number of years, engaged in that type of training. So, Michelle, can you share with us how the training has evolved over the years? What things have evolved as it relates to the type of training that we do?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the pieces that has happened is that both the Stark County Sheriff's Office and Stark County Mental Health Addiction Recovery each contribute a staff member's time to help co-coordinate the whole CIT initiative. And for the county, there's also additional folks, valued community members on the steering committee as well. And so that committee has expanded over time. There's been over 1,000 officers trained to date in the county, which I think is remarkable, that each department sees this training as valuable and is dedicating their staff time to be able to attend. We've also expanded CIT to include advanced classes, so additional opportunities for training on specialized topics beyond the 40 hours, as well as offering it to fire EMS personnel and also dispatchers at this time.
And I think that's fantastic, because we sometimes forget about our fire and EMS personnel who are also out there with us dealing with members of our community who are in crisis. And so I think it's great that we're offering that training specifically for them as well. And you know, I've always thought that the first line, the first answering point is our dispatchers. And so I think this training has been very beneficial to our communication folks when they're the first ones taking the call, and they can already start the de-escalation process before officers may even arrive. Can we talk about, Aaron, any specific instance that you can think of where the training directly benefited a member of our community, or a situation where you kind of felt like you thought about it and thought, well, you know, thank goodness we've had this training, because that really impacted this particular incident?
Yeah, I can think of a couple. There was one instance, it was a few years ago probably now, where there was an individual having a mental health crisis in the community. It was in a public parking lot, and when the officer responded, you know, there were a lot of bystanders around, a lot of folks like filming, yelling things at both the officer and the individual in crisis. But the officer recognized this person's having a mental health crisis, and they were able to, you know, block out kind of the noise of the crowd and just connect with that person and really get them de-escalated safely and direct them into treatment versus, or the appropriate care versus, you know, having to arrest them or anything like that. And I think that speaks to the volume of just how impactful this training is. And then the other incident I can think of was there was an individual who was suicidal on a bridge, and the officer that responded was a CIT trained officer, and he was able to also just connect with that person, de-escalate, talk to them. And again, that's not just a quick, you know, 5-minute conversation.
Right.
You know, that takes a lot of time to connect and really de-escalate someone into treatment. And so I think that was really impactful, and it's really, even though those are large incidents, there's also just these day-to-day interactions for other officers who maybe the media doesn't get the attention, but it's really in those day-to-day interactions that it impacts
I'm
folks.
familiar with both those incidents, and I can recall the first incident where there was a lot of social media, because as you said, there were people filming and they were live streaming it, and there was a lot of social media. And there was a lot of pressure on the officer when the officer first arrived to do something, take some type of action. But fortunately, that officer had recently been through the training and recognized immediately that there was a person here in crisis. And actually, I recall after that speaking to that individual's mother, and the mother conveyed to me personally that they felt that officer helped save their son's life that day because of the way they responded to the call. The response could have been different. It really could have been, and maybe even justified on some of the things that were going on. But because of the training, we think of things a little bit differently.
Right.
We take a little bit different approach, and I think it helps us to understand our community a lot better, and that's really a big part of our role, is to understand what our needs in our community are. I want to go back to your statement about it it took a lot of time during that de-escalation of that person that was thinking of self-harm. And so when we talk about the training, one of the things we try to emphasize is it's okay to take time. Because in our profession, a lot of times we rush in, take care of the problem, leave, then go to the next problem. And it's constant. It really is. It's a ever-turning wheel. But we've learned from this training and from our experience with the training that it's okay to slow things down and take a little bit of time. And I know as a result, we also have crisis intervention teams in our community. And when I first started as the sheriff, we did not have those. And so let's talk a little bit about those teams.
Sure, the mobile response
Yes.
teams? Sure, so they've been around now for how many years? It's been probably...
7 or
Started
8
in
maybe.
2017.
Okay, so since 2017, we've had the mobile response teams, but those teams can really, they can co-respond with law enforcement, and they're available, 24/7, 365. Community can call either the crisis hotline, the 452-6000 number, or 988, and a local crisis worker will answer that call. And they can request a mobile crisis. And mobile crisis will come out anywhere in Stark County, and whether that be home, community, school, work, anywhere, they will come out and respond.
Yeah, and I know they do, and they do a fantastic job. And I know when we first started the pilot, I think it was in 17, we just had a small group. And very quickly we discovered that we needed a bigger boat or more teams, more crisis response teams. And we've done that. We have that available, and we utilize that in our county. With those teams, I think we need to mention also that, excuse me, they also come into our jail. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure, so the mobile teams will come out to the jail if they're requested. They can come out and do an assessment there. We also have services within the jail, like jail liaisons are there as well, to help link folks back to the community, making sure that they either are reconnected to their provider, their existing provider, or they're getting connected to a service provider upon release.
Right. So we not only have the crisis response teams, but we also have staffing in the jail that helps us with folks that may be incarcerated that are already in the system or maybe have identified crisis or mental health issues. And so talk about how that works, our partnership works with those folks in the jail that are working through Stark-MAR or through a service in the jail.
So our jail liaisons typically are aware of who's in the jail that have mental health or substance use disorder, and so they're outreaching them in the jail, or they're getting referrals like from the jail staff or from the medical staff at the jail, and they're connecting with them and outreaching them physically, through phone calls or in-person outreaches, and then they are connecting them, calling their treatment provider or whoever they may be connected to back in the community, just to get them, again, having that continuity of care so that it's kind of a seamless transition. Hopefully when they go back to the community, they have a kind of a warm handoff to their provider.
And I think that's working very well with us in the jail, and I think it works with our clients and certainly with the community. And we have really made great strides with what we're doing related to, I call it a little bit of a soft landing when people leave the jail. And so they're not reoccurring offenses, and they're coming back and reducing their recidivism rate so that we're not seeing those folks over and over, giving them a little bit of a leg up to keep them out of our jail. So I think it's working out very, very well. So we appreciate the work that we do in that. I'd like to pause a moment to tell you about our free Sheriff's mobile app. Cybersecurity, safety measures, notifications, Sheriff's Office event listings, and more. Join the more than 100,000 people who have downloaded our free app by searching Stark County Sheriff Ohio in your mobile app store. Hello, Stark County. Sheriff George Meyer here. In today's fast-paced world, staying connected and informed is more important than ever. That's why we're excited to tell you about a tool that brings the Stark County Sheriff's Office to your fingertips. With our free app, you can receive instant alerts, access important updates, and find community resources, Whether it's checking on jail information, staying informed about local emergencies, or just keeping up with our community events, our app keeps you informed. So take a moment to visit your app store and search for Stark County Sheriff Ohio. Downloading is quick and easy and free. By staying connected, we're working together to keep Stark County safe. Download the app today. Well, welcome back. Thank you again for being here. We've had some really lively discussion on crisis intervention, the training, how it impacts our law enforcement and our community, and certainly how it helps our community. And so we're going to continue that discussion in our second segment. And so, I want to ask Aaron, what's some of the common misconceptions about mental health that this training kind of helps us understand better as a law enforcement community?
I think some common misconceptions is that folks with mental health are violent, or folks with substance use disorders are dangerous or belong in the jail. I think this training really helps officers see that recovery is possible. Part of the training is we have folks with lived experience come in and tell their stories, and that's a really important piece of this training, and that really helps them empathize and understand that, again, treatment is out there and recovery is possible for all.
And I think that's an important piece. Sometimes when in our profession, we do sometimes go from call to call, and we lose track of what happened in that previous call, right? We don't always have the opportunity or responsibility to follow that through. So it's a way for us to understand that when we're able to certainly de-escalate a situation and bring assistance to the individual who's seeking or who is in need of help, and then to find out through the training process that it works, right? And people are getting the help and they're being very productive in our community. And so I think that is a key point of what the training does for us. Michelle, from your perspective, how does the crisis intervention training impact the relationship between law enforcement in our community and the people that we actually serve?
Sure. So I think that definitely there's a united front that folks in the community can see that law enforcement are there to help and wanting to make sure that folks get connected to the right services and needs that they might have. I know that law enforcement in our behavioral health system definitely has opportunities where we've used those interactions to learn from each other, to be able to better improve delivery of services and care. And I know we mentioned mobile response earlier. I think that that's one of the examples of that. That partnership allowed us to work with our providers and create that service in our community and provide clinicians who can be on scene to help with whatever concern, mental health or substance use that's going on at the time.
So the interesting thing about the mobile response, and maybe it's interesting enough that I think our listeners, viewers need to understand, it's 24/7, 365. These folks come out at any hour of the evening, morning, early hour, morning hours, throughout the day. They're available 24/7, 365. And I want to go back to something I said earlier. Just a few years ago, our community was saying we need clinicians more than we need law enforcement to respond to these incidents. And again, at that time, I thought to myself, Stark County's a really, really good position because we had already launched a program where we had mobile response. While maybe the mobile responders weren't riding in the seat next to the law enforcement officers, they certainly were at their immediate call. And you mentioned how to reach out to them in our earlier segment. We have them on speed dial in our dispatch centers, and so we're able to get them to respond to a crisis pretty rapidly. And we work very, very closely with them, hand in glove actually, with them when we have situations like this. And I've found over the years since we've launched that program that it really has made a huge impact on the community, meaning the people that we serve, to be able to immediately have somebody respond when they're in crisis, immediately provide some type of assistance or guide them to some type of assistance without delay. Because when someone's in crisis, they don't want to make an appointment and come see you next week, right? It's not like, hey, my arm's sore and I need to go to the doctor, so I'll make an appointment next week. That's when you're in crisis, you need help now. And so I think one of the most significant pieces related to the mobile crisis team is they're able to provide people in our community some relief immediately. Not only just being there, but beyond being there in the days to come by actually cradling them and walking them through the process if they've not been through some of the assistance processes in the past. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of the best things that we've launched between agencies in the community, and I think it's really paid off. And as it relates to us, as far as a piece of community policing, it's a significant piece for us to help people in our community. And by the way, when I hire people, I ask them a question: why do you want to be in law enforcement? Almost without a doubt, everyone says, I'm here to help people. And so this is a tool that helps us help people. I think it's fantastic. What does, Erin, I want to come back to you. What ways can the community at large support the continuation and expansion of the crisis intervention training?
I think just being aware that the program exists is a huge thing for the community. They can tell their loved ones or their family members, to ask for a CIT officer if they are calling 911 and request a CIT officer. We also have CIT awards locally here. We have a CIT Officer of the Year and a CIT Champion of the Year. And so if the community is seeing an officer do a great job in the community, you can nominate them for an award. It's on our website. It's starkmhar.org under the CIT topics, but they can nominate. Those are open year-round because we really do want to highlight those officers who are out there doing the work, doing a good job, and we think that would be great for the community to recognize them.
And I concur. I've been, a part of that process, and we've seen folks recognized, and I think we need to recognize folks when they're doing a good job. I think that's that's something that we really need to continue, and I appreciate Stark-MAHR for taking the lead in that and making sure that we are recognizing those in our community, whether they be a law enforcement officer or otherwise, that are actually contributing to the safety in our community through mental health initiatives and certainly through CIT. I wanted to ask a little bit, Erin, if you can talk about community awareness and understanding of mental health. As this is being Mental Health Awareness Month, what changed or what results of these educational initiatives have impacted our community?
Well, I think we still have a little ways to go, but I think, starting just the conversation is helpful. Most people say that they know their physical health better than their mental health. And so we have, we encourage people to check in on one another, check in on yourself daily, check in on a loved one, just to see how they're doing. We have a quiz on our website. It's the How Are You Feeling quiz. And it'll help you decide too if professional mental health support is right for you or your loved one, but we have that tool out there too. Again, it's just about being aware of what your mental health is.
And how do people get to that tool?
It's on our website. It's starkmhar.org, and it's under, you can, we have a little search thing. It's called the How Are You Feeling quiz.
Okay. And that's great. That's a great tool. And this is a good place for me probably to interject that this is something that we do for our officers as well. Law enforcement officers have about a 700 times greater occurrence of crisis situations or tragedies in their career than the average person in the community. And so with that being said, they sometimes compartmentalize these things and themselves have mental health or anxiety issues as related to what they do in their job. And so we've been great partners with Stark-MAHR to assist our community, law enforcement community as well, in maintaining their mental health. And so we appreciate that relationship. Michelle, what are some of the challenges that still exist in the mental health education and awareness, and how can these be addressed moving forward?
Sure. I think in addition to what Erin mentioned, it's really about folks being more aware of their own mental health, and mentioning that it's really like akin to your physical health. Both are important parts of a person. And so knowing how you're feeling and how you're doing, checking in with yourself, checking in with others, part of that is knowing where to start and asking the question. There's a lot of resources out there that folks aren't aware of to be able to access health for both mental health and substance use. We have a list of providers on our website, the starkmhar.org that Aaron mentioned. We also have a larger list of service providers on starkhelpcentral.com that folks can go to. Free, both are websites that are accessible 24/7, 365. The providers on the Stark MAR webpage have contracted with us, so if folks have a concern about ability to pay, they can research and pick out which agency fits their needs best and be able to still access the resources or supports that they might need.
Well, these services are fantastic, especially if you're a person that's in a need, right? And so I'm glad that we're able to talk about these today and let our viewers understand that these services are available. But I think it merits talking about the collaboration. It's fantastic, and I'm really proud of the things we're able to accomplish here in Stark County because of that collaboration. I don't know how you guys feel about the collaboration, if you can talk about, you know, the ability to collaborate and work together and accomplish things in our community, and I think that's a big part of the success of what we do, and I'm sure you guys probably agree with that. I want to talk just a little bit about some of the ways that we've worked together to address the homelessness in the county. You know, when some folks come to our jail, they're homeless. And so a number of years ago, I made a commitment that I'm not going to contribute to, you know, the homelessness in our community by releasing people from the jail and putting them back on the street without having a place to go. And so I know we've worked very closely with you guys, and again, that collaboration has been fantastic. We have crisis beds, and we really appreciate the work that Stark MAR's done in that, and you know, John Aller and I have worked together very closely to make sure that these folks get a bit of a soft landing and they're not back out on the street and just getting back in the cycle again and coming back in the jail. And so while sometimes it might be short term, it can develop into long-term housing, and so we appreciate you guys' effort in all that, and thank you again. We certainly appreciate the collaboration, because without it we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we do. Thank you again to our guests today, Michelle Boone, Director of Clinical Services, and Aaron Ivers, Recovery Program Manager. I'm your Stark County Sheriff, George Meyer. Remember, we're always working together to keep Stark County safe and save our taxpayer dollars.